Feeding the world is complicated and wasteful, a combination of complex supply chains, inconsistent crop yields, extreme climate events, and political instability have long left the world with a paradox. Despite a surplus of food overall, there are millions of people malnourished or in danger of starvation. Humans throw away millions of tons of food each year. Often it's food that goes unsold in stores, then expires. Down the road from Uglo, the folks at Soppköket Catering are rescuing otherwise edible waste and turning it into delicious meals in their so-called garbage kitchen.
Up to 10% of the world's entire CO2 emissions comes from food waste. It's a third of all food that we produce globally that is being thrown away. That means food that is still completely edible. As you can see, the things that we also rescue, very nice things that are being thrown.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the Soppköket truck makes the rounds, visiting Stockholm's supermarkets, carting off perfectly good food that the law would otherwise require to be tossed in the bin.
It wasn't difficult to convince them actually to collaborate with us. They all want to minimize their own food waste. Things that we rescue from the supermarkets every week is actually for free. And at the same time, they reduce their garbage cost because they would otherwise have paid the company to come and pick it up, which is kind of expensive for them.
Lundin says after collecting the food, they sort the good from the spoiled. They usually rescue about 90% of their haul.
So then the next step is taking those things, the 90%, up to the kitchen. And then the staff in the kitchen is cutting, chopping, peeling, and maybe parboiling or drying, freezing it, so that we build our food bank in the freezer. The next step after that is that we go again, the kitchen staff, to the freezer room where we have the food bank of frozen ingredients.
With their freezer stock, says Lundin, they can get creative in making delicious meals.
Then we take out what we want to make big cook-off for maybe 100 liters of, it could be a stew, but it could also be anything from a smoothie to a pie. Anything that we can make in a big portion of 100 liters per cooking occasion. And then we vacuum pack it and freeze again in big portions for our own operations of catering, and in small portions for our future frozen meal products sold to the supermarket circularly back. We really need to have our operations in the kitchen efficient. So the same staff is cooking big batches, and then we freeze it, and then we can distribute it in a lot of different revenue streams, which also gives our company a resilience if we have a crisis like the corona crisis in the future again, where a whole branch would collapse like the catering events. We had almost none during the corona crisis. Then we have other revenue streams to stand on and can ensure that we can continue to minimize food waste in the future.
Soppköket says its business is scalable and exportable. A waste-saving model that makes money, creates jobs, and that could reduce food waste globally.
And at the same time, we want to inspire others to minimize food waste themselves. The collaborators we collaborate with, we want to help them to reduce their own food waste with different tips and advice. And we also want to inspire through me holding lectures at schools, gymnasiums, high schools, universities, to inspire youth in how to minimize food waste at home.
Reducing food waste means slowing global warming. But what about the carbon footprint of food production itself? That's also high, especially when it comes to meat. Agriculture accounts for 40% of the methane gas found in the atmosphere. About a third of that comes from industrial animal farming. As far as greenhouse gases go, methane's much more potent than CO2. Lowering its emission is crucial. In a warehouse in Barcelona, scientists and entrepreneurs are searching for a way to remove animals, and therefore methane, from the protein chain. And it starts with a 3D printer and an ersatz sirloin, materializing one microfilament at a time.
I come from bioengineering. I was professor in what is called tissue engineering. So I've been working 10 years on regenerating organs and tissue for biomedical and veterinarian purposes. So the idea came when I was able for the first time with a bioprinter to create microfilaments that resemble what we call the biomimetic structure. You want to replicate the real structure of the muscle, for example, of a cow. And then I was able to create this microfilament and combine them as if they were muscular fiber.
The only thing Novameat's so-called muscle can't do, Scionti likes to say, is move on its own.
So we have our food engineer that is designing the code, and when we design the filament orientation and the structure, we develop the formulation with the biomaterials. It can be plant-based, it can be fungi-based, it can be algae-based, it can be bacteria-based, or an hybrid.
Novameat's a startup, entering an alternative meat market already stiff with competition, from Beyond to Impossible to local company Eura. But Scionti's hoping his technology will give him an edge, a technology that's still top secret.
While the first prototypes were just with a small 3D printer and we were producing very slowly, now we've been able to scale the production up to about 500 kilograms per hour. This is just one machine, so one equipment, but we are able to have them in parallel as a modular production facility. And now in the pilot plant, we are just developing the process so that we can actually have a big factory, not only one in Europe, but also in the rest of the world. And then we can really have at scale something that is very efficient and so scalable that you get also in terms of price, something that is not only price parity compared to normal meat, but something that is cheaper.
To prepare for large-scale production, Scionti has spent 2 years trying to perfect the two most important aspects of his Nova meat: the look and the taste. To do that, Nova Meat has turned to another expert in what you might call culinary microbiology, Eduard Chatruch, owner and chef at Disfrutar in Barcelona. Voted third best restaurant in the world by Restaurant Magazine this year. Disfrutar is known for its haute cuisine experimental dishes, from beetroot meringue to faux olives made from cocoa butter. To create those dishes, Disfrutar has a separate subterranean kitchen, a food lab where staff are willing to try just about anything to create new flavors and textures, including using 3D printing.
La creatividad es un ejercicio y es un trabajo que lo hacemos diariamente. Nosotros tenemos un equipo de 5 personas que cada día nos ponemos a trabajar con todo el equipo para intentar mejorar y hacer cosas nuevas. Hay días que salen cosas y estamos súper contentos, y hay días y semanas que no sacamos nada nuevo, ¿no?
Chatruch says the key to creating is finding new techniques. Nova Meats hooked them immediately.
Nos planteó un proyecto que nos apasionó desde el primer momento. ¿Por qué? Por dos razones. Una, porque a nivel tecnológico nos posibilita el conocer un método de producción diferente, ¿no? Que es la impresión en 3D, para conseguir esta carne, entre comillas, pero a base de proteína vegetal. Pero también, por otro lado, nosotros a nivel creativo pues estamos haciendo, por ejemplo, unas hojas de mango, que sin la tecnología de Nova Meat sería imposible tenerlo, ¿no?
Everybody wins. Disfrutar gets to play with the printer. Nova Meat gets expert taste buds on their methane-free meat substitutes.
Ahora mismo con Nova Meat estamos pues que ya tenemos resultados, ¿no? Y podemos hacer un pollo empanado que cuando lo comes la gente dice quiero más. Podemos hacer lomo de cerdo, podemos hacer filetes de ternera. Después de un año y medio creo que el proyecto inicial se ha transformado ya en una realidad, donde, bueno, de hecho ya están con una planta de producción.
Novameat is about to sign its first contract with a major retailer. Giuseppe Schionti says the revolution is here, and it's easy to see why.
It's not better for the environment, but also for our health, because we don't have the use of any antibiotics, there is no cholesterol. This is not carcinogenic. We are talking about something that can be easily better than meat, especially intensive farming meat. That is not a very good meat you can find in the supermarket. It is very important to be resilient as well in the food system. So having different production lines in different continents and in different parts of the world can be sustainable, and also it's much more efficient because you avoid transporting the food all around the world.